There we go. Keep forgetting to select the what show I'm doing, and so I just randomly just start going live without any descriptions, and here I am, finally going live on the right channel. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I am beat. My arm's about to fall off. My feet hurt. I feel like my quadriceps gonna snap and slap me in the face. Man, all right. And I'm dehydrated. Okay. I have no idea what's going on today. I've not read any of the news. I was at our charity baseball game today. I had a good game. I did not pitch because my arm is not in shape. I did not get in shape this year. But I played first base. I played flawless first base. I went 2 for 3. Put the ball in play every time. We got beat 13-3, 12-3. So we got whooped. The other team had a lot younger, stronger, handsomer, more athletic people than my team did. Just like last year. I think they beat us 12-1 last year. We need to mix it up and get some youth on my side. There's a lot of gray beards were on my side of the field. So I guess I'm going to learn what's going on from you guys, because the only thing I read about was last night that Trump announced he had a trade deal with Vietnam, which is Vietnam never charges tariffs. Yet we slapped a giant tariff on them. So Vietnam's like, we'll do a trade deal with you. We will remove all tariffs. And the Trump administration's like, oh, awesome. We'll keep a tariff on you at 20%. Trade deal signed. So stupid. so stupid. But anyway, here we are. Right, monkey? Cool. I'm going to click the hoobity bop and a little shoobity boop. Bing, bing. Okay. Draw off the intro. Bop. Super chat from Bill Coyne. Hiring was overwhelmingly government and state jobs. Everything else sucked. It's doubtful this will continue, so buckle up. I think they wanted 90 to 100,000 jobs, and we lost 33,000. But then the Trump administration was like, no. We did 100,000 hiring. We did not. So far, we've lost out on $60 billion in international tourist dollars that we normally have this time of year. Tourist places are hurting, especially places that cater to international tourists. Yeah. So this should be the time that everyone's announcing that they've hired a whole bunch of people. Basically, you want this time of year and right before Christmas. Your low job time should be the fall, when all the summer positions go away. The tourism, heads back to Europe and wherever. And then right after Christmas, when all the seasonal jobs for the Christmas employees go away. Instead, we are seeing job losses in June. And you don't want to see job losses in June. They should be hiring then. We're also getting massive layoffs. Microsoft just laid off another 9,000 people. The Hyundai plant in Alabama exported 14 cars. Down over 99%. 99.999% or something like that. They should be exporting like 10,000 cars a month, and they did 14. So it's not going to pay for these companies to keep their manufacturing here if we're going to tax the shit out of everything that comes in to build them here. They're just going to go back to Korea. They're going to go back to Japan. They're going to open up their factories there. So we're going to lose tens of thousands of manufacturing jobs, mostly throughout the South, in places like Alabama and Tennessee and South Carolina, where they voted for this. The big beautiful bill looks like it's, at least because I haven't read this morning, looks like last night it was getting halted by some Republicans who were like, no, I'm not voting for this. So they're taking Elon at his word that he's going to primary them. Trump says he's going to primary anyone who votes. Elon's going to primary anybody who votes yes. Trump's going to primary anybody who votes no. And the party is torn asunder as a result. Delicious. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. Michael was first. Is that your first? Wormfall first. Oh, you were second. Oh, Andrew Stewart says second, but no, you were third. Lisa Saw, happy 3rd of July. Michael Holm gives peace. And it says hit the like button. Lisa Saw, send P. Diddy into alligator Alcatraz just for entertainment purposes. Kind of a celebrity convict to keep the topic relevant. Yeah, it's pretty alarming that we're creating concentration camps, and there are well-known people who work with the administration who are like, ha, we're going to kill 65 million people there. And that's how many people of Latin Hispanic heritage live in the United States. So people like Laura Loomer are openly calling for the extermination of an entire demographic of people in this country. That is genocide. That's genocide. They're calling for genocide. And they look at places like Alligator Alcatraz as somewhere they can do that. They can do mass murder. So yeah, we're in the worst timeline, man. Chica Shukla, passed the House, head for Trump's desk. Ah, crap. That's what I get for not being able to read anything today. Well, shit. Well, that's bad news, Jigish. Well, 16 million of you will, to 17 million of you will lose health care. About 300 rural hospitals will close, almost all in deep red areas. 14 million people will die because USAID will not be able to help them. What other bad crap reading out of that one monkey? We can't regulate AI for a decade. So AI will get to do whatever hell it wants. Banks will be able to have their deposits in cryptocurrency, but won't be able to rehypothecate them and make any interest off of them. Yeah. What else? What else is this? I mean, there's so many bad things in that bill, monkey. ICE gets $160 billion a year, which is more than the Marines get. So we get to have a gigantic, overfunded secret police force that's going to torture and harass people. Yeah, it is an awful, the big bumbling bill. It is a terrible piece of legislation, and I hope a whole bunch of it gets picked apart in the courts, because I don't know what else to do. Stephanie L. Super Chats, 3 questions. Can you tell me why no labs may go down to 15 cents? Because they're looking at diluting between 350 and 750 million shares. So at the current float, with $100 million of Bitcoin, it should be about $14 a share. That's about how much cash and equivalents they have backing those shares. If they dilute hundreds of millions, if they dilute out to, 1 billion shares, then you're looking at, that's probably about 10 cents a share. So that's 750 million is about 15. At 500 million, about 20, somewhere in there. So 20 cents a share. If at 350, that's about 30 cents a share. That's why. And 2, also, if Elon spills the beans, won't he risk getting indicted for election fraud? Yes, he could risk getting indicted for election fraud, but he would be implicating co-conspirators. So my guess is that he would either take an immunity deal, go to a non-extradition country, do something like that, because he's probably going to get, he's pissing off Trump enough that he's probably going to get stripped of citizenship, get stripped of his assets, lose his companies, and be sent somewhere, if not to a gulag in El Salvador or elsewhere. So Elon needs to figure out real quick exactly what it is he wants to do, because it may not last for him. It may not. And number 3, why are police just watching bounty hunters kidnap people? That is a question I would like answered, because I think there needs to be, from the top, from the governors, from the county executives, from the mayors, from the police chiefs and commissioners themselves, needs to say, hey, if these people are not showing their badges to people, if these kidnappers aren't showing their badges to people and aren't identifying themselves properly, with name, rank, serial number, etc., arrest them and charge them under state charges for kidnapping. There needs to be, but the problem is that the cops got their thin blue line, and they're law enforcement all together. But they need to look at these guys not as law enforcement, as basically kidnappers and bounty hunters and all that shit. It's yeah, it's bad. It's real bad, real bad. And so I hope that there's at least a few cops out there who can go against the grain and be like, oh, I'm gonna arrest this dude. He's kidnapping somebody and he doesn't have a proper warrant. And let's make a stand right here. I would appreciate that. None of them off. Green chats. Spy hit new all-time highs. Tariff 2.0 is around the corner. Yeah, Spy hit $626 and change today. On news that we're losing jobs, that commercial mortgage-backed securities are toast, that mortgage-backed securities are toast, that real estate isn't worth anything, that no one wants our products and exports are down to all-time lows, pending inflation with more tariffs coming, bond yields are going through the roof because no one wants our debt, losing access to very important resources, we got never-ending war in the Middle East, we got war in Russia and Ukraine, possibly in Europe. I honestly think that the powers that be, that the masters of the universe, they are pumping this thing up as high as they possibly can before the tariffs come back online on the 9th, which is, again, that's Wednesday. I keep forgetting if it's Wednesday or Tuesday. Yeah, the 9th is Wednesday. So I'm probably going to gamble and get a whole bunch of puts Tuesday right before close. I might get them for the following day, for that Thursday, so I have a little bit of theta. But, yeah, it's... Yeah, I don't. There's not a single indicator across the spectrum that says, like, you know what, we're going to be all right. Nope, we're not going to be all right. Other nations are more focused on forming trade deals with each other. They will bypass us. They don't want to deal with us. We're a pain in the ass. We're that awful neighbor everyone ignores and puts up high fences to block. So that's who we are right now. It's gonna get bad. Yeah. Wormfall. Happy birthday, Sin. Will society ever look back at this time and think, what the hell were they thinking? Every day seems to be a bit more crazy than the day before. Yes. This will be looked at as a self-inflicted dark ages. We are vaporizing research and development in this country. We're vaporizing the economy. We're vaporizing our allies and our trade partners. We are closing in on ourselves and imploding in a way that never needed to happen. It is an unforced error. It is an own goal. We are giving up a whole bunch of unearned runs right now. We muff the punt. What other ones can we throw out there? Yeah, already people outside the United States are looking at this like, what the fuck? At least the Romans had a whole bunch of lead in their drinking water, right? At least they had that. Maybe it's microplastics. Maybe it's COVID brain. But we were on this descent before COVID. We were dumbing ourselves down real quick. I just don't understand. I don't understand the rich and powerful people who are like, yeah, it would be really good not having a middle class. That would be epic. Because the middle class who buys their fucking products. If you don't have a middle class, you don't have customers. If you don't have customers, you're not rich, right? You need customers to be rich. And without them, you're going to have nothing. You're going to be just as poor as everybody else in the end. There'll be a couple of folks who have some real, like, meat for as far as, like, monopolies or oligopolies are concerned. But everyone else is going to lose out, right? They're not going to have customers. Your hotels won't have customers. Your cars won't have buyers. Your cell phones are going to be the lamest cell phones ever. People aren't going to buy your video games. They're just not going to be able to afford stuff. They're going to be going for bare essentials. And we're going to have like cardboard like toilet paper and like gruel or hardtack that we all have to eat. And that's it. So invest in hardtack. Whoever makes hardtack still. Nathan Scott, don't do that to poor alligators. Yeah, they don't need the lube. Andrew Stewart, Houston. Can you please explain the difference between Heart Mountain in Wyoming and Alligator Alcatraz in Florida? Because I'm not seeing it. I don't know Heart Mountain in Wyoming. Heart Mountain, Wyoming. Search. Okay, what do we got? Heart Mountain, Wyoming. Heart Mountain, Wyoming. Well, that's mountain. There's the top of Heart Mountain. Okay. And Alligator Alcatraz is a prison surrounded by a moat. So I guess the difference is Heart Mountain is a mountain out in the middle of nowhere, and Alligator Alcatraz is a prison out in the middle of nowhere. So that would probably be the difference there. I like Cody as a town. You guys ever been to Cody? Cody's a good town. There's also a whole bunch of things I think are kimberlite pipes around Cody. So these guys here, I think these are kimberlite pipes. I've tested them with hydrochloric acid and they sizzle with sulfuric acid. But I haven't actually done any digging to see if they're diamoniferous or not. But yeah, these dudes here, these are all, I think they're kimberlite pipes. I think that's a kimberlite pipe. They're very alkalic. Anyway, I got distracted. There you go. The difference between the two is one is a mountain in the middle of nowhere, and the other is a swamp designed to imprison people for being brown in the middle of nowhere. See what I do with Nub. Still the worst timeline. Yep. Nathan Scott is twiddling thumbs. Lisa saw the media tour of Alligator Alcatraz by Trump and DeSantis just made it look like a poor man's Seacot. Yeah. It also made it look like a concentration camp. Floridians, you spent $450 million for that camp and you're not getting reimbursed for any of it. So congratulations. And it's going to cost between $84,000 and $140,000 a year per person being sent there. It has an amazing, I think it's 2-to-1 staff to prisoner ratio, which is absolutely expensive and horrible. And people are just going to get electrocuted because of the standing water and all the electrical plugs. So good job, everybody. That's what happens. That's what happens when you imprison all the people who know how to build stuff, and then you have a bunch of like goofers who don't know how to build anything, and then they go and build it. You get things like stupid Alligator Alcatraz. If and when this garbage timeline we're in finally comes to an end, and we have, a probably not so peaceful revolution, there are going to be a whole bunch of people who we're going to find their little files, we're going to find their names, we're going to find out exactly what they did and who they arrested and who they did it to and who they disappeared and all that stuff. And we're going to find those decision makers and those people who follow those orders, and they're going to go before tribunals, and they're going to probably swing from rafters. It is going to be brutal. You might be all happy now, like, oh yeah, America, we won. But you're going to be swinging from ropes at some point. This is you do not do this stuff without ultimate consequences in the end. Your legacy is going to be terrible. You're going to go down as enemies of the nation and the world as a whole. And you're going to be tried, convicted, and probably put to death. That's what happens when you do stuff like this to a population. The population doesn't like it very much, and in the end, if you're not swinging from rafters after a tribunal or court setting, it's going to be in the act of the revolution. You're going to be swinging from bridges and like gas station roofs and overpasses and all that stuff. It's going to get really, 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 really bad. Oh, the Heart Mountain relocation camp. Oh, duh. Sorry, Andrew Stewart. Heart Mountain relocation camp is one of the ones that the Japanese went to, right? There we go. So here we go. So, sorry, there's Heart Mountain. There's Mazama. There's Oh crap! There's all those other camps. Rhyolite in Utah. So the Japanese in World War II, they were taken to camps. So there's one here. This is leftover one of the old camps right there. We can't see that. Here we go. Hard Mountain Camp. The Japanese in World War II were taken here, and they were housed throughout the entire war because of their skin color. Even though they were citizens, and not a single Japanese person was found to be a traitor or a spy or working for the Japanese Empire. The Japanese Americans and the Japanese Nisei and the people that came here, they fled Japan. They came here for a reason, right? They came here not to wage war in the U.S., but to like be strawberry farmers and everything else. There was Rhyolite. Rhyolite, Nevada, which is actually a couple Japanese guys found one of the largest iron nickel meteorites in the world at Rhyolite. This guy here, this is a former camp as well, right at the train station. Oh no, that's Rhyolite, Nevada. That's the wrong Rhyolite. What are you doing? No, I want Rhyolite Camp, Utah, Delta. Is that Delta? That is Flow. Oh, yeah, it should be out here. This one here, right? Ancient volcanoes. Okay. This should be Brush Wellman. Is that Rhyolite? Yeah, this should be the Rhyolite. So this is leftover of the old Rhyolite camp in no, sorry, Topaz Camp. God damn it, I can get my names backed up. Topaz Camp in Utah. They went to, which is really strange because if you were a Japanese person living in Utah or living in Wyoming, you were far enough from the coast that you didn't go into internment. But if you were a coastal Japanese person, you were sent to Wyoming and Utah and basically imprisoned for the entire war. Where why don't they just be like, hey, why don't you just live in Utah and Wyoming and you'll be fine? The first Japanese professional basketball player in the U.S. grew up World War II in Utah, was not interned because he lived in Utah, and he eventually went to play college ball and played in, I don't know if it was the NBA back then, but played professional basketball. But meanwhile, people were sent to Topaz Camp as Japanese folks. And then there's, I can't remember all of them they got sent to. Was it Mazama? I'm thinking of. There were camps in the desert in California, camps in Idaho. But what's different about these is that they were sent there and they were interned. It was a concentration camp. They were concentrated in these camps, but they were not death factories, and they did not have records of abuse, beatings, being malnourished, abused, tortured. Whereas the folks who are being sent to these camps run by private companies, again, these weren't run by private companies, they're run by the government. Folks being sent to these private companies now, they don't have enough water for folks. They don't have toilets. They don't have bedding. They're not getting fed properly. There's stories of adults being housed with children and then fights breaking out over water supply between adults and children. We sent folks to Seacoat in El Salvador, and they're talking about the torture that they went under and the starvation. And Abrego Garcia lost 30 pounds in 2 weeks because they weren't feeding him, right? So these are torture camps. That's what they are. They're torture camps. And they're going to house people until they get too full. And if we can't send them on elsewhere, well, that's when you just start feeding them to the alligators, or creating ovens or gas chambers or giant pits that get filled in with bulldozers. These are the big differences. Is that we had a government that had a semblance of a conscience in 1941 and 42. This government does not have a conscience, and they do not have checks and balances. And there's nobody whispering in their ear being like, it's probably not a good thing. They're probably like, yeah, hurt people. It turns me on. And that is probably where we're at. Bug, get out of here. So yeah, those are differences. This is closer to concentration camps you got in Namibia or in Soviet Russia or in Nazi Germany. These are camps run by people who want to hurt people. And that's the worst kind of camp. Camp should be fun. Camp should be about marshmallows and learning survival skills and vistas. They shouldn't be about hurting people. That type of camp should be opposed at all times. Let's not do that. Yeah. Wordfall, how would you fix the housing bubble in parts of Canada? Someone sold a 1,600 square foot house on a small lot for just over $1 million Canadian dollars, not even a city core. People are house rich in theory. I would eliminate a couple of things. I would eliminate landlords, or put a limit on how many homes someone can actually own. Sorry, the cat is screaming to get in here. 1 sec. Ugh, kitty. Get in here. Come on. I know, you're a monster. You're just a terrorist. Okay. I would put a limit on how many homes people can own. Put them at 4 homes. That's it. Get rid of all these large landlords. I mean, there's landlords in Ontario that own 40,000, 100,000 homes. Get rid of those guys. Make them whittle them down to 4. You can have 2 homes, 1 you live in, 1 that you can have as a vacation cabin, and then 2 that you can use as rentals. That's it. No more. No more than that. And if homes sit empty in urban areas, I'm not talking like a lake cabin or a mountain cabin up in the Tules, right? In urban areas, if they're zoned urban or suburban and they sit empty, punish the landowner for it sitting empty. And we're talking, if there's no water being used, no electricity, no cars in the driveway, it's very obvious that house is sitting empty. Charge them 20% of the assessed value of that home in taxes. Don't make it 1%. Charge them a brutal amount. And so that they have to rent out to people if they're going to have these empty homes sitting there. It would also limit ownership to probably residents only. So you have to either be filing in the process to get residency or being a Canadian resident. So not somebody who lives in Saudi Arabia or in Hong Kong or in Dubai or a Russian. If you are not a resident, you don't get to own the home. This would mean also you have to put like caveats on shell companies, because people who will make a shell company in Canada have that buy the house, but really it's being run out of the Caymans or something. So those are probably the big things you're gonna have to do to quash that stuff. Also, there's lots of complaints about Kat, you're just such a monster. Lots of complaints about bureaucratic loopholes. Not loopholes. Bureaucratic pains in the ass that take forever and cost a lot of money. There's claims that like 48% of the house value of construction in Vancouver was due to local regulations. I'm sure there's ways you can streamline that. The thing is that Vancouver is a place that gets, earthquakes and strong storms, and you have to build certain to codes. You have to make sure they're built to code, but maybe you can streamline that process a little more. Stop it. Okay, fine. You want drugs? It's holiday. Eat all the drugs you want, you stupid monster. Yeah, eat all that. Hi, dummy. There's your drugs, cat. Finally. So yeah. I'm gonna start too much. Yeah, never a hard time. Jules Mammy, the word of the day is lube, because y'all ain't getting none. Big beautiful Bill. Yeah. Bite the pillow because I'm going in dry. That's basically what the Big Beautiful Bill is all about. Celebrate happy birthday, HW. So North Korea helping Russia again. War in Ukraine is becoming just like the Spanish Civil War. Everybody's getting involved to get training and weapons. World War III. Yeah, I mean, in the end, when this is over, the Ukrainians are going to be the most capable military in the entire world. They're going to have the best experience. They're going to have the best weapons. They're going to know exactly how to navigate this modern warfare. They're going to do it better than anyone else. And so they're going to be the ones training people when this is all over. And the Russians can't figure it out because they're so corrupt that they'll just keep throwing bodies at it, and those bodies are going to keep dying. So they're not learning any lessons from this. And the people in power are going to keep trying to suck as much as they can out of the coffers of the Russian government and keep buying their super yachts and everything else, because those generals and admirals, they know that this isn't going to last forever. It's a lost cause, basically. And the Russian economists are warning about the fact that eat the rest of your drugs, dude. Don't finish your meal. Jeez, knees. Are warning that Russia's running out of money. They're running out of money. They're running out of gold. What they're selling isn't selling for enough to make up for it, and they don't have the factories anymore to rebuild any of the military equipment. They're almost out of military equipment, so they think they could be basically bone dry of tanks and similar equipment by 2027, which is a year and a half away. So what the Ukrainians are noticing is the numbers of destruction of tanks and vans and trucks and personnel carriers are dropping, not because the Russians are getting better at protecting them, it's just because there's less of them to target. Their S-400, S-500, S-300 anti-aircraft systems aren't doing that well against these things. They fail when it comes to drone swarms. A lot of them aren't maintained, so they get launched and just basically blow up the site that they are on. Yeah. So, attending one of the super chats, Rock God, tell me you laughed at Brett Weinstein and Piers Morgan getting paper ridiculed. How dare you? So Brett Weinstein he's not a physicist. He is I think he's a statistical biologist, if I remember correctly. Not a very well known one at that. He has a paper about his new theories on physics. The problem is that the paper is based upon notes he took at a lecture like 40 years ago. He can't find the notes. He doesn't remember exactly what the lecture was about. So he has this paper that he's floating around. He doesn't understand why no one will publish it. And so Piers Morgan had an actual astrophysicist on, and who was like, this paper's garbage and these are the reasons why. You don't know anything about science. I'm peer reviewing right now and it's fucking terrible. And Brett's he's like, you're an astrophysicist. You don't know anything about physics. To become an astrophysicist, you have to do a physics degree. My astronomy degree, the degree is called a Bachelor of Science in Astronomy. I have to take all the requirements for a physics degree, so I can have a bachelor's in physics, and then I take a few more to get the astronomy degree. So I have a physics and an astronomy degree, so I am an astrophysicist. That's what it comes down to. Don't you dare! You stop. You have your drugs. Eat them. You don't need any more. There's just your butthole sitting on drugs right now that you didn't eat. So no more. The guy's just like, Brett, you are out of your element, dude. You have no idea what you're talking about. Maybe Eric Weinstein is the one that's a biologist, and Brett's like an English major or something. Whatever he is, he's like wholly unqualified to try and publish this paper that does not explain how any of his ideas work, does not have any mathematical equations, and has no way of testing it at all because he doesn't understand himself because he can't find his own lecture notes from when he came up with this idea 40 years ago. It was funny. Everybody on the Dark Horse podcast is terrible. And I went on a wonderful date or two with this beautiful actress. She's been in things that you've seen before. Absolutely, she's a wonderful person. She's very nice. She's very beautiful. She's very smart. The problem was that the Dark Horse podcast broke her brain during COVID. And she spent the entire time, you really have to watch the Dark Horse podcast. You'll learn a lot. It's the best thing in the world. And she went all anti-vax and weird, and it just obviously wasn't going to work. Like, she quit. She was a very successful working actress, being in quite a few things that you've seen before. And she quit Hollywood because she refused to get vaccinated, and therefore she couldn't be on set with anybody anymore. She quit her own job because Brett Weinstein and Eric Weinstein told her to, basically. And that, my friends, is a cult leader. So, yeah. I think Oneness, you are correct. I meant Eric. Brett the anti-vax. Okay, it's the other way around. I knew one of them went one way or the other. But yeah, it's pretty funny watching the Weinstein brother, whichever one it was, get chewed. And Piers Morgan sucks ass as a human being, but it was funny watching him be like, oh, during that conversation. So yeah. Good read. Hiring defied expectations in June, as it has been pointed out that the numbers don't actually show 80,000 plus jobs in state and local governments. It shows an unadjusted loss of 550,000. Yep. Jobs are down. Jobs are not up. And layoffs are starting to get bigger and bigger and bigger. MS. What location would U.S. government want so bad they would declare martial law and bring in troops, take over inside U.S. Also, as for Andor, who is an unwitting MAGA Cyril headed to the beach? Yeah. Andor was done so brilliantly. If you've not seen it, I highly recommend it. It is the most adult Star Wars and is one of the best sci-fis ever made. It should win all sorts of awards this year. The beauty of it is it goes into the intricacies of how one foments a totalitarian takeover, right? You use false flags, you create enemies, you do things, you have to give reasons to the public to crack down. So you're going to use the media and propaganda. You can do all this stuff. And they do such a brilliant job orchestrating and painting exactly how a totalitarian state, fascist state takes over. And they don't really explain that in other Star Wars. It's just more like, these guys bad, these guys good, ... But this is much more adult, and it, there's swear words in it. It's different than any type of Star Wars you'll see. And so yeah, they do an amazing job. And they also show that you'll have people who are jingoistic, who will rah, 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 wave the flag, right? America can do no wrong, right? And at the last moment, when the plan comes to fruition and they've been in the dark and they've been a tool the entire time, they discover that they were a pawn in this the whole time. I think a lot of people with health conditions, a lot of people who are lower income, a lot of people who wanted to lay the blame for the hardship in their life to minorities existing, gays existing, trans people existing, that it can't possibly be these white people who look like me who tell me the things I want to hear. None of those could be the problem. It's got to be these minorities minding their own business. They're the problem, right? And what they're discovering with things like the big, beautiful bill is that they're not going to be able to feed themselves. They're going to lose their jobs. If they haven't already lost their jobs, they're going to lose their Medicaid. If they haven't lost their Medicaid, they're going to lose their SNAP benefits. Their kids' schools are going to close. Local hospitals are going to close. Their hunting grounds and fishing grounds are going to eventually be sold off for privatization. They're quickly seeing that the actions of this government, in particular, are making their lives worse. And there'll be some people who are doubling down, who will put the blinders on and be like, no, Trump is a god, you can do no wrong, Jesus put him there, right? And there's other people who are going to actively realize that they're going to lose their homes, they're going to starve, they're not going to be able to get their insulin, their kids not going to be able to get their chemo, right? They're not going to be able to feed their dogs. Life is going to get inexplicably hard and worse. And it's going to be obvious that there's no one else to blame except the person they put in power for that. So I think most of the people in the first administration went into it thinking, I can keep him accountable. I can ensure that, we'll stick to the tried and true. I will work with Trump to try and explain to him how this works. And all those people quit or got fired in those first 4 years. And the folks who are in this administration now, those folks are there specifically to do evil. They're not being duped because they're jingoistic, like I need to help America type mentality. These people there are specifically there to hurt other folks. And that's why they're in this White House. All the competent people, all the adults in the room, were long gone by the end of that first administration. So it's only shitty people left um, in this administration. There may be folks who are still members of law enforcement or the military who have not quite figured out yet that this is the the we're in the bad time. They haven't quite figure out that we're in the bad time yet, right? And I don't know if at this point if they ever will. They may be like, well, just following orders because they're too unaware of anything else at this point. So, yeah, I don't know. I think most people. There's a lot of folks who worked at ICE in Border Patrol who quit. I saw a list of, but several hundred of them were like, no, I'm not going to be a part of this, and they were like, peace. But then all the people who got brought on, those people are there to hurt people. They are actively going out finding January 6ers and militia folks and white supremacists, and they're giving them a badge and telling them, go hurt people. And they're like, yeah. I bet those other little hotel rooms are probably so covered in jizz from hate masturbating that's what they're into. That's their thing. Peach Sunday says the BBB is a GoFundMe for the billionaires. Yeah, we just tacked on $5 trillion in debt specifically to give billionaires a tax break, give them money they don't need, and ensure that we're going to hurt the majority of people in this country as a result. The billionaires are going to discover that only goes. So you can only mess and hurt the people for so long. At some point they go, well, I got nothing left to lose, and then they Luigi, and that time is coming. They're going to have these private security forces. They're going to be covered in security. You're going to have to go from bubble to bubble, right? But even in the end, some of those security guys are going to see, like, their little girl lost her Medicaid. She's no longer on Cobra. She's not on Hawkeye Care or whatever. And they're going to be like, wait a minute. This paycheck isn't worth it, right? That type of stuff is what's coming. You only get away with it for so long. You can't keep pushing the limit. Flip that coin, you get 10 tails in a row, eventually it's going to come up heads. So they need to realize when they have it good, cut their losses. There's no reason any billionaire should be angry about anything ever. There's no reason. They have it good. They have more money than anyone could ever utilize. They have access to anything and everything in the universe. They should not be angry. Yet these billionaires are some of the angriest people in existence. They're so angry, right? They've had so much for so long that they see somebody else having something as taking away from them or something like that. I don't get it. I don't get why Elon's so pissed off. Elon could make his little cars and his little rockets and his little satellites and drill his little tunnels, and he'd be filthy rich and people would love him for it, right? But he has to go out of his way to hurt as many people as he possibly can. Bill Ackman could do all his squirty little shorts and longs and play the market and no one ever hear of him, but he's got to take his money and he's got to go try to influence elections to hurt as many people as he possibly can. Donald Trump could be making really shitty apartment buildings with crappy gold plating and terrible construction quality, and he can make his millions and his billions and live happily ever after. But no, he needs to go out there and he has to specifically go hurt people. I don't understand it. You're a billionaire. You could be swimming in pools. You could be getting blowjobs from supermodels. You could be driving really cool cars on private racetracks. You can be flying to locations around the world and eating the best food. But no, you're just so fucking mad. You need to go hurt people. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. Here's Miami. U.S. is sending 200 Marines to Florida to help ICE. Fuck. They're just there to hurt people. That's their entire point. Is just to cause pain, and it turns them on or something. I don't know. Attending oneness, super chats. Ronald Reagan presidency was the beginning of the end for U.S. democracy, and only continued what business plot couldn't. 47 Prez is endgame for these Republican demons. Yeah, I do think that Trump is the end. We may, hopefully, we don't die in the crossfire. We may end up with, say, a new constitutional convention. We may end up with multiple nations out of this. We may balkanize. We may have weird allegiances and, you know, have partition type things where MAGA flows one way and other people like. We may end up with weird situations like that. This is definitely a dividing line for this country, and yeah, if we're sending Marines into Florida to go round up brown people, that's it. That's the end. Ta-da! The bottom's going to follow the market. Everyone's going to lose their jobs, and they're going to be spending hundreds of billions of dollars a year to take brown people and send them elsewhere. So we're all going to starve, and we're going to lose market share, and I don't know. I don't know what they expect of all this in the end, right? They want us to be like little slaves working in factories. That seems to be the goal. But what will we be building, and what will we be selling to people? Like, we won't have any international customers because they aren't going to buy our shit anymore. They're like, fuck you. I'm not buying any American. Screw that, right? And they won't be able to sell to us because we won't have any money. We're all going to be dirt poor working in the factories and not have any time to be tourists or go out to dinner or buy fancy phones or new cars or anything. We're going to be in like dormitories on the factory floor. That's where we'll be. So we won't have any discretionary income to pay for things. So what is it we're going to be building? What is it we're going to be doing? What is it? What is it? What is it? We're not going to be educated people because we're going to close all the colleges, and we're going to have no scholarships for folks, and we have no research. So anyone with a brain is going to figure out how to get out of this country and go live elsewhere and do the research and do their inventions and do the research and development. So I don't know what the goal is. Like, it's like the underpants gnomes. Step 1, collect underpants. Step 2, Step 3, profit. We are not going to profit. We're going to collapse this goddamn economy. And those who have cash, I guess they can go in there and buy it up for basement prices. But then what? Oh, I went in there and I bought it all up. And all the companies are failing miserably because they have no customers and aren't selling anything. But they have a Bitcoin strategy. Oh, yay! Bitcoin strategy. They're all high-fiving each other and like pelvic thrusting. But what good is Bitcoin if 97% of Bitcoin is owned by 1% of wallets? Like, Bitcoin is never meant to be absolutely manhandled and just rise to a most elite 1%. That wasn't the idea of Bitcoin. If you read the paper, the idea was to, create a currency that could go transnational and people could use to buy things. But people don't use Bitcoin to buy things unless it's crime. They use it to buy crime. Outside that, they're just buying it, sitting on it, like as if the ones and zeros will never go away or something. I don't know. Oh, he finally passed out. Awesome. The future's so fucking stupid. So dumb. So dumb. And so what we're forced with, because we don't have a system that helps anybody, we're being forced to try and get hours. We need to get hours while we can, because if we don't do it now, there's no hope later for it. And that's what society is breaking down into. It's not looking out for each other. It's looking out for number one, because number one doesn't get it. I'm going to end up like all you losers. And that's not a great way to run society. It's a terrible way to run a society. If you want society to be awesome, if you want America to be great, you have to do great things, and we're just not doing it. So, yeah, Reagan sucked. George W. sucked. Trump definitely sucks. We've every Democratic president since Reagan has reduced the deficit, every Republican president, Reagan included, has raised the deficit. In fact, the last Republican to reduce the deficit was Eisenhower. That's the last Republican to reduce the deficit. And he still managed to build this giant highway infrastructure across the entire United States while doing that. So, granted, he was really terrible at international relations, and a lot of the problems we have today were a result of decisions he made in, Afghanistan, Iran, Saudi Arabia, etc. But still, domestically, he reduced the deficit and got us the highway system. But man, Republicans should never talk about being fiscally responsible because they aren't. They just aren't. We are annihilating so many necessary programs that help us know about weather, help us have fun outdoors, educate us, teach us science, do research, etc. And yet we're spending more money than ever. We're cutting all the good stuff and keeping what? Tax cuts for billionaires. That's what we got. So, yeah. So my 4th of Julawesome is kind of being advertised as possibly the last 4th of Julawesome ever. That we may never get one again. So we're going out with a bang for 4th of Julawesome this year. Get it while we can, I guess, because I don't know what else we're gonna do. Wah 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 wah. Yeah. So we got a few minutes left here. Ron Rose, all the hype sales of garbage snake oil type items and fear-based bull is going through the roof. It's getting sickening. You're talking about are they doing ads for survival seeds and stuff like that again? Because that seems to be what they do. Well, sub BBY, sub no labs. BBY, I don't know. No labs. It seems like they're going to do a dilution. That's what we got. Oriana Mosca, Houston. What's your opinion on Powell and Pulte? I got invited to Pulte's thingy in Florida. I went. It was not what I was expecting. I thought it was just gonna be like a party. We go and we eat shrimp cocktail. And we meet each other. We go, hey, we are all in this BBY thing. Cool, whatever. And it was very much like going to a Trump rally. And I was not expecting to be somebody put on stage. I didn't really want to be on stage, but I was invited to this thing, and I guess that was what I was supposed to do. Pulte was nice to me. We didn't really talk that much. We exchanged a few words, but it seemed very much like his audition to eventually become governor of Florida or a senator or one day president. But what I got out of it was he's a teeny tiny man and 100% a Nepo baby. That's what I got out of it. And by teeny tiny man, I mean physically he is, I could put him in my pocket. He probably comes up to, I don't know if he even comes up to my nipples. I remember sitting on stage, other than the fact that I had to pee so bad, looking at his tiny little trousers and his itty bitty little children's shoes and thinking, oh, if this isn't custom tailored, he got this at JCPenney children's section. Because he's that tiny. He's maybe, I don't know, 5'1"? He's really small. Just adorable little, I could rock him to sleep type small. But it 100% a Nepo baby. He does not have the understanding of outside work. You know what I mean? Here's a bunch of stuff. I'm going to tell you how to run this stuff. And outside of that, he has no cultural reference or frame of reference. He doesn't understand what it takes to live a normal human life. He pretends like he does, because he has this little charity thing where he throws money at people who need help, paying the bills or whatever, which, okay, cool. People need help. I get it. You have money to do that. Awesome. But his understanding of actual suffering and how economies work, he does not understand. So he wants lower interest rates, because lower interest rates mean people get mortgages, and people get mortgages means they go buy Pulte homes. That's what he wants, right? But he doesn't understand that if you cut rates right now, in an economy where for some reason the SPY is at all-time highs, and we have potentiality for absolutely insane unforced error in tariffs causing inflation, right? Everything goes up to 50% again, we're fucked. The cost of things will be outrageous. But if you cut rates now and the SPY goes, when inflation goes through the roof, you have no tools to fix any of that. When you have deflation, meaning the value of things are going down because there's less liquidity in the market, that's when you cut rates, shaboink, to spur inflation, to flood the market with cash so that people can go out and buy things again and cause the prices to go up and cause growth to happen. If you are already in an inflationary environment and you cut the rates, a couple problems happen. One, you flood the market with cash when prices are already going up, causing prices to become hyperinflation and to wildly outpace anyone's living wages, destroying the economy even further. Number two, U.S. government bonds, despite the fact that rate cuts already happened over the last year, the yields are going through the roof because nobody wants our debt. So you cut the rates, you have de-incentivized anyone from participating in buying our debt. Meaning when you're creating $5 trillion in extra debt through a really terrible, big, beautiful bill, you will make it so that you don't sell any treasuries and you don't have any money to pay for that big, beautiful bill you just passed. So you cut rates now, you destroy us. This is what Trump did in 2018, 2019, and 2020. Was he screamed and yelled at Powell, and he said, "You better cut rates. I want negative rates. You better cut rates." At a time when we should have been raising rates because the economy was growing so steadily and so great that we're approaching a bubble, right? And that bubble was going to happen at some point during 2020. It was going to pop, regardless of what happened. But then we got hit with COVID. And COVID resulted in a shutdown of the entire world, right? Where we need to, and the price of things plummeted. Oil went negative. Remember oil going negative? You know, you get airline flights for $1, like hotel rooms were, because we had to shut down because we had a giant deadly pathogen flying through the population. And that's when you cut rates. You cut rates from 4 or 5% down to 1, 0, whatever. So you can spur a bunch of liquidity, a bunch of lending, and people can spend money on things. The rates were already too low because Trump kept them too low for too long, strong arming the Fed. And I think that's one of Jerome Powell's biggest regrets, was letting Trump strong arm him in 2018, 2019 from raising rates, even just moderately. And as a result, we had to print trillions upon trillions upon trillions upon trillions of dollars. And those trillions of dollars that got printed directly resulted in massive inflation, the biggest inflation we'd had in almost 50 years, because the market got flooded with cash at a time when supplies were limited. So demand definitely outpaced supply because supply chains were all broken from COVID. And we saw 8-9% inflation rates, and the price of things go crazy. So Trump's trying to do it again. He's trying to cut rates, flood the market with cash, cause inflation to go nuts, and crash the economy at the same time. So end up with stagflation, and we'll just be wallowing in stagflation for decades until somebody comes in and goes, "We're going to raise rates to 25%, and just cut off all money, and we're going to go through austerity," and that stuff sucks. So. Yeah. Anyway, I'm glad I got a show done today. Sorry I didn't get one done yesterday. We're doing lots of preparing for our 4th of July barbecue, and it's a lot. It is a big festivity. Hundreds of people will be here soon, and I gotta make sure I can feed them all and get them lubed up and ready to go. Right. So, okay, I will see you guys after the 4th of July. I'll see you on Monday. We'll probably talk about what's going to be happening with tariffs, if Trump's going to let them all expire or let the halt expire or not, and see where we go from there. Right, fat cat? Right, floor dog? Okay, you guys have a great 4th. It may be our last one, so enjoy the hell out of it while you still can. And Merca. Okay, have a great night. Bye. Where'd my thing go? There it is.